Pain has a peculiar way of reshaping a soul. It doesn't just bruise, it carves, leaving marks that can't be erased. While you carried the weight of your struggles, they laughed. Your stumbling steps entertained them. Your failures gave them something to sneer at. They didn't care to ask what it took to keep standing, to keep moving. All they saw was weakness. They never thought those scars would become your armor, or that the fire would forge something they couldn't touch. Strength wasn't gifted to you, it was earned. Every blow, every cut, every fall shaped it. While they lounged in comfort, you learned to endure. While they watched and mocked, you adapted. They mistook your suffering for surrender, but they failed to understand that resilience grows in silence. Strength is never loud while it's being built. It lurks beneath the surface, unnoticed, until it's ready to strike. Now, their laughter has turned to envy. Those who once mocked now watch in awe, their faces twisted with the bitterness of regret. They wanted you to stay broken, but you rose higher than they ever thought possible. Their smug confidence has evaporated, replaced by the realization that what they scorned has become what they crave. Your pain, your endurance, is a language they'll never understand. There's an irony in their longing. They laughed at what they couldn't bear themselves. They wouldn't last a day under the weight you carried for years. Their privilege blinded them to your transformation, and now it gnaws at them. They wanted to see you defeated, but instead, they see you unshakable. Their envy is loud, but your silence is louder. Strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about knowing you've been broken and building yourself back piece by piece. They watched your struggle and assumed it would crush you. But that struggle became the foundation of something far greater. What they thought was the end was only your beginning. They can't comprehend that kind of power because they've never faced the kind of battles you've won. Their envy isn't just jealousy, it's fear. Fear that you've become something they can't manipulate, something beyond their reach. They wanted to keep you small, but your strength has made them question their own fragility. They're scrambling now, trying to find a way to dismiss what they can't deny. But their words fall flat, their opinions irrelevant. You've moved beyond their grasp. It's funny how their perspective shifts when the tables turn. The struggles they mocked have become your triumphs, and now they wear the weight of their own insecurities. Their envy isn't about you, it's about what you represent. You are proof that pain can be a teacher, that resilience is born from suffering. And that terrifies them because it's a lesson they'll never learn. In the quiet moments, when they're alone with their thoughts, their envy becomes unbearable. They'll never admit it, but their eyes betray them. They wanted to see you fail, but now they watch in silence, their pride too fragile to acknowledge what they've witnessed. Your strength is a mirror, reflecting everything they lack, and they can't look away. They wanted entertainment, but what they got was a reckoning. You didn't just survive, you thrived. And now their mocking laughter is a distant echo, drowned out by the sound of your relentless rise. What they scorned has become their obsession, and they can't escape the shadow of their own inadequacy. While they mock no more, you stand as a testament to what pain can create. They mocked your struggles because they couldn't fathom your strength. Now they envy what they'll never possess. For every sneer, every insult, every dismissive glance, They've been left with nothing but regret. You owe them nothing, and yet you gave them something they'll never forget. The reminder that you endured, and they crumbled. Struggles reveal more than pain. They strip away pretense, exposing the raw essence of who you are. Those who mocked your burdens were safe in their comfort, untouched by the storms that shaped you. Their laughter wasn't strength. It was weakness, cloaked in arrogance. They could never withstand what you endured, and they knew it. Mockery was their defense, a way to mask the emptiness within themselves. They jeered, not because you were weak, but because your struggle reminded them of their own fragility. Pain tests the foundation of character, and theirs was built on sand. Struggles demand resilience, and those who lack it will do anything to avoid the mirror it holds to their face. They thrive in shallow waters, where effort is minimal and risks are few. Your endurance, your capacity to walk through the fire, highlighted their inadequacy. So they laughed, thinking it would drown out the fear whispering inside them. Every insult, every condescending remark was a confession. They weren't mocking your struggle. They were revealing their own fear of it. They saw your strength growing, even when you didn't. They mocked because they couldn't fathom the courage it took to carry on. Their words were weapons crafted from their insecurities, blunt and hollow, breaking against the armor your pain had forged. It's in the weight of struggle that greatness is formed. You've seen darkness, stood in its presence, and emerged unbroken. They could never comprehend that kind of transformation. Their lives are untested, their minds untempered. Struggles demand depth, and they lack it entirely. They float on the surface, unaware of the abyss beneath them, hoping never to be pulled under. But you've swum in those depths, and it has made you invincible. The character revealed by struggle cannot be faked. It isn't found in easy victories or shallow smiles. It's carved into you by sleepless nights, by battles fought in silence. They looked at you and saw someone to belittle, but what they truly saw was someone they could never become. Their mockery was envy, disguised as superiority, a hollow attempt to diminish what they couldn't replicate. Their laughter was fleeting, but your strength endures. The struggles they mocked have given you a weight they'll never carry. It grounds you, makes you immovable. They, untethered by hardship, are blown wherever the wind takes them. Their lack of struggle is not freedom. It's a cage. They'll never grow, never change, never rise. They're trapped by the very comfort they cling to. You wear your scars like a crown, a symbol of battles fought and victories earned. They carry none, not because they've never been hurt, but because they've never dared to face their pain. They are hollow shells, empty of the fortitude that only struggle can build. You have become something far beyond their understanding. Layered, strong, unyielding. Mockery is the refuge of the weak. It takes no courage to jeer from the sidelines. They lack the strength to stand with you in the storm. So they laughed to feel bigger than they are. But their laughter only echoes in their own hollowness. You don't hear it anymore. All you hear now is the silence of their regret, the envy they can no longer hide. Mockery is a weapon wielded by the weak. It isn't sharp or calculated. It's blunt and desperate. When someone laughs at your pain, it isn't courage. It's fear. They mock not because you are beneath them, but because your struggle holds a mirror to their own inadequacies. It forces them to confront the emptiness of their existence, the fragility they so desperately try to hide. Their laughter is a shield, their words a distraction, but neither can mask the cracks forming beneath their surface. The human mind resists its own reflection when the image is unflattering. Mockery is the easiest way to look away, to redirect attention. Those who mocked your struggles weren't scorning you. They were running from themselves. Your pain reminded them of the battles they refused to face. It showed them the strength they lacked, the courage they would never possess. Their taunts weren't an attack. They were an escape, a plea for distraction from their inner void. Strength unsettles the untested. To them, your struggle was foreign, alien, something they could neither understand nor replicate. Their laughter was an attempt to shrink what they couldn't grasp. Mockery becomes their last resort, a clumsy way to diminish the magnitude of what you endured. They laugh to convince themselves they are superior, but even they don't believe it. Every insult they hurled revealed more about their weakness than it ever did about your strength. Mockery thrives on distance. They laughed because they were safe, untouched, unscarred. They mocked from the sidelines, where the battle's weight could never reach them. But distance breeds ignorance, and ignorance leaves them defenseless. What they once mocked now stands before them as a monument to everything they can't attain. They wanted to feel strong by tearing you down, but all they've done is expose their hollow core. It's fascinating how the loudest mockers are often the most fragile. Their bravado masks a delicate foundation, one that crumbles the moment it's tested. Their laughter is a performance, a show put on to hide the trembling beneath. They know, deep down, that they could never endure what you have. That knowledge terrifies them, and so they ridicule, hoping their laughter will drown out the truth ringing in their own minds. Their defense mechanism is flawed, transparent to anyone who watches closely. Mockery doesn't protect them, it isolates them. Each word they spat in derision pushed them further from understanding, further from strength. While you built yourself in silence, they distracted themselves with noise. Now, as you stand tall, their shield of mockery lies shattered at their feet, leaving them exposed and trembling. Endurance cannot be mocked out of existence. Your struggle forged something beyond their comprehension. They sought to avoid their own pain, but now they must watch as you transform yours into power. And that burns them more than any wound ever could. Their defense mechanism has turned into their prison. The laughter that once freed them from self-reflection now chains them to their inadequacies. They are unable to break free because they never learned to face themselves. Meanwhile, you've not only faced your demons, but subdued them. Their envy grows louder, but their voice grows weaker. They mocked to shield themselves, but the shield has cracked. Ridicule is the weapon of the ignorant. People fear what they do not understand, and fear makes them lash out. They cloak their confusion in mockery, hoping laughter will shield them from the unease crawling beneath their skin. What they cannot comprehend, they reduce to jokes, as if shrinking it will make it less threatening. But mockery does not diminish, it reveals. It lays bare their insecurities, their terror at facing something they cannot control or define. Understanding requires effort, and effort is something they avoid. Ridicule is easier, safer, a shortcut to dismissing what challenges their narrow view of the world. They laughed at your struggles not because they were funny, but because they were foreign. Your endurance, your transformation, was something they couldn't grasp. It unsettled them, made them question their own stagnant existence. So they ridiculed, desperate to keep the unknown at arm's length. People laugh at what they fear. They saw your struggles and couldn't fathom how you kept going. They watched your pain and couldn't understand how it didn't destroy you. Their laughter wasn't mockery. It was panic. It was the sound of their fragile minds trying to process the strength they could never possess. What they ridiculed was not your weakness, but their inability to break you. The unknown has always been humanity's greatest fear. People fear what they cannot explain, and they hate what they fear. Your struggle was a riddle they couldn't solve, a mirror they couldn't look into. Instead of learning, they chose to mock, hoping their laughter would drown out their own inadequacy. But you were not weakened by their ridicule. If anything, it only fed the fire growing within you. Mockery is the language of the small-minded. They cannot see past the surface, so they dismiss what lies beneath. Your struggles carried a depth they were too shallow to comprehend. They ridiculed because the kawai non wai, and blindness made them bold. But boldness born of ignorance is fleeting, and their laughter fades when confronted with the undeniable. Your strength shattered their illusions, and now their voices fall silent. The greatest insult to them was not your endurance. It was your transformation. What they ridiculed has become a force they envy, a power they cannot touch. They thought their laughter would echo forever, but now it feels empty in the face of your rise. They mocked your pain, but they can't laugh at your strength. Their ridicule was never about you. It was about what you made them feel. Small. People ridicule what they fear because understanding takes courage. They lacked the bravery to face your struggles, so they turned them into a spectacle. But a spectacle does not last. The audience grows quiet when the act becomes real. Your strength became undeniable, and their laughter turned to envy. They could no longer mock what had surpassed them. Now they are left with their confusion, their fear, and the shadow of what you've become. Their laughter was hollow, their jeers meaningless, and their ridicule powerless. You've risen above their limitations, far beyond their comprehension. And in their silence, they now confront what they always feared. Your strength was never meant for their understanding. Struggle leaves a mark, but it's not the kind they expect. It doesn't break you. It reshapes you. Every battle fought in silence, every scar earned without an audience, builds something unshakable. It's not loud. It doesn't boast. Instead, it moves through the world with a quiet certainty that commands attention. Those who once jeered at your pain now feel its weight in your presence, though you say nothing. Your silence is louder than their laughter ever was. Confidence born of struggle isn't flashy. It doesn't need to be. It's in the way you stand, the way you move, the way your eyes linger just a second longer than most. Those who mocked you feel it, though they can't articulate why. They sense the shift, the power that wasn't there before. It unnerves them. They glance at you differently now, not with disdain, but with unease. They understand, perhaps too late, that you've become something they'll never be. Respect isn't demanded. It's earned in the crucible of hardship. Overcoming what should have destroyed you creates an energy that can't be ignored. It's not charisma. It's gravity. It pulls people in, whether they want to be drawn or not. Those who once mocked find themselves on the outside, watching you with envy. They won't admit it, but they now follow your steps, hoping to glean even a fraction of the strength you've cultivated. There's an aura around those who've overcome. It doesn't beg for acknowledgement, it commands it. People instinctively step back, make room, even if they don't understand why. Your presence reminds them of their own fragility, of the storms they wouldn't dare face. What they once dismissed as weakness now radiates power, and they're left grappling with the distance between your strength and their insecurity. The irony is striking. They mocked you, hoping to reduce you, but instead, you've expanded beyond their reach. They can no longer ridicule, for your very existence has become a mirror reflecting their inadequacies. And so, they watch, drawn to the confidence that grew from your pain, unable to look away yet too afraid to approach. Their laughter has turned into whispers, their arrogance into silence. Those who survive struggle carry an untouchable energy. It doesn't just command respect, it unsettles. They sense that you've walked through fires they wouldn't dare approach, that you've emerged tempered and unyielding. It's not something they can imitate or buy. It's earned, and they know they lack the currency. They're left with nothing but envy, their own mediocrity glaring back at them. Strength built in silence speaks volumes. It doesn't need applause or recognition. It exists in the spaces between words, in the pause before action. Those who mocked are now dwarfed by what they never thought possible. They thought their words would diminish you, but all they've done is amplify your power. Their attempts to belittle now echo hollow in the shadow of your confidence. They feel it most in your absence. When you walk into a room, the air changes. When you leave, the void is undeniable. Confidence born from struggle leaves an imprint on the world, an undeniable weight that lingers long after you're gone. Those who mocked can't escape it. They carry the reminder with them, no matter where they go. Your presence has become their reckoning. Challenges carve away the unnecessary. They strip you down to your core, leaving no room for lies or illusions. What remains is raw, unpolished, and real. Authenticity is born from hardship, and it terrifies those who live behind masks. They build their lives on pretense, a fragile construct meant to protect their fragile egos. But the authentic make them uneasy. Your presence is a reminder of everything they fear. Exposure. Pretenders thrive in shallow waters, where their facades go unchallenged. But authenticity drowns them. It forces them to confront what they lack. Your challenges have given you something they can't fabricate, a sense of self that isn't swayed by their games. It cuts through their lies, leaving them defenseless. They can't hide from what you represent, no matter how desperately they try to maintain their act. Your authenticity is a weapon they can't match. It doesn't need validation or approval. It moves through the world with quiet certainty, cutting through the noise they create to distract from the succession or insecurities. They mock what they count on succession they cannot imitate, hoping their ridicule will obscure their own flaws. But their laughter falters in the face of your unshakable presence, their masks cracking under the weight of their own deception. Pretenses crumble under pressure, but authenticity thrives. You've been forged in trials, your edges sharpened by every challenge you've faced. The ones who mocked you have never faced their own pain. They've never had to reconcile with their own inadequacies. They fear authenticity because it exposes the hollowness of their existence. It reveals the lies they've told themselves just to get by. There's no refuge for the insecure when faced with someone who's real. Their pretense feels cheap, their words empty. They rely on smoke and mirrors, but you don't play their game. Your presence turns their tricks against them, forcing them into the light they've always avoided. Their mockery wasn't strength, it was fear, a desperate attempt to conceal the weakness they know you see. Authenticity doesn't seek to impress, it simply is. Challenges have made you solid, a force that moves with purpose. They've made you aware of what matters and what doesn't. The people who mocked your struggles used their pretense as armor, but your authenticity stripped it away. They can't compete with what's real, and that knowledge burns them more than anything else.